Well, we could see Spiral.
Get everybody out of here.
Is that the other film you saw?
From the Book of Saw, yes. We saw that on Wednesday, didn't we, Char?
Do you say
see that on Wednesday.
it's from the Book of Saw?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically Chris Rock wrote and sort of developed.
See, I thought he wrote it, but he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah, because I thought he did, but he didn't. There's 2 other writers on it,
Oh.
but I know that he pushed the idea. I'm pretty sure that's true.
So he developed it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he developed it.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
it's
he didn't
within
write
the
it.
Saw franchise.
Yeah, it's basically...
Nah, I don't want to see that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You're not a Saw fan?
I've never had any interest. I don't see the appeal at all. It's just not my bag of chips.
See, again, if we're trying to sell you on the idea of going, I would say that the pitch for this movie and what I think is interesting about it is I think it's a perfect jumping on point.
Definitely.
It's like taking the traps from the old movies and instead sort of reworking it into a Seven-esque, although I think that's a bit of a compliment, to be honest, a Seven-esque sort of thriller where it's about the detectives and about them working out who the killer is. So it's more like a detective story.
I just don't see why you wouldn't just make a different movie.
Okay, Teri, here's another way I could sell you. Here's another way I could tell you.
Okay.
The angle on it is it's to do with like police corruption, and the copycat killer, rather than targeting random people, is targeting bent cops. Yeah, and Chris Rock's character is a guy that basically is hated on the force because 10 years prior he snitched. He did the right thing because this guy murdered an innocent civilian, and then he pretended that it was like a witness pulled a gun on him. It's an interesting movie for that on that topic, in that it sort of touches on police brutality and police corruption, and like a lot of conversations that have been prevalent in the last year. And sometimes it does it with nuance, and then other times it's a bit cartoony, and I feel like it could have had a bit more balls. Like there's a moment where there's evidence that a cop's killed someone, and they basically frame it so that like the camera caught the exact perfect moment that the guy flipped in the birds out the car window. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you're watching it like, right, we're just getting our exposition here. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it being a moment.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand like why you wouldn't just be brave and make a film, an independent film on that topic. I don't know why it needs to be a Saw thing.
Well, I think it's hard to get things made at the moment, and I can totally see why having those conversations within the trappings of a Saw movie. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose.
I think
if you've got the platform, use it, definitely.
Yeah. And also, like, I think it's interesting for... Oh. I thought he's pissed off at that comment.
He's so done. He doesn't want to hear me slander Saw anymore.
I'm not dealing with Spiral anymore.
But why did it have to be a Saw movie? What? I mean, to be fair, Charlie is Lee Winnell's biggest fan.
I am. At the moment, he's killing
For
the
good
game.
reason.
For very good reason.
Lovely. Yeah, no, it just doesn't sound like something that I would be interested in. But I will give it a go for the purposes of the podcast.
Yeah, I think if you're not a fan of Saw, it's not going to necessarily convince you.
Okay.
I think if anything, we were talking about Charlie about like the traps. There's some good ideas for the traps without spoiling too much, but most of them do this really annoying thing with the bad Saw traps from the franchise, in that the person is definitely not going to get out. So therefore, there's no tension of will they, won't they? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I think the best Saw traps are when something horrible's happening to them, but there's this tiny chance if they just do this one thing where they could survive. And a lot of the traps, it was like from the word go in Spiral, you're like, well, there's no way they're getting out of that, are they?
Yes, no, that was my problem with some of them. It was like, they didn't really do a good job, one, of setting up the tension. It kind of felt like, here's the filth, like, here's the people getting their limbs all exploded, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the gore, but without the tension of, oh shit, they can get out. Like, I never really buy any of them are going to get out, as opposed to, apart from 1 or 2 scenes. And I think that, that's an issue with it, because I think it comes across a bit like, kind of more celebrating the violence of it. It's weird. It's a weird one. I think that I think what I didn't like about it was the traps kind of felt like an afterthought at times. Where it was like, oh, we have to put them in because it's a Saw movie. As opposed to, I feel like they could have really took the time. Like you said, Matt, it's always good when they have a trap where you understand the mechanics of how it works and how they can get out. Or like for example, like one of the traps I always remember, I can't remember which one it's from, where they're trapped up and they have to like weigh down this thing, to get out. And the only way they can weigh it down is by putting like weight on it. But all they have is like a knife and their own body. So they like, people, like one person chops their arm off and puts it on, and another person starts cutting fat off their stomach, and like, do you know what I mean? Like, that to me is like, do you know what I mean? You understand the mechanics of how that works, where there was a couple of ones in this where it was like, how in the hell are you ever going to get out of that? Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't buy at all you're ever going to have a chance. And I think that was
there was some of them. What you say, Teri?
So I was going to say, it's interesting that you said you feel that this film celebrates the violence of it, when to me the whole franchise is celebrating the violence.
I think it's a tricky, it's a thin line. I think that when Saw is good, the tension and the thrills are some of the best we've ever had in horror. But then when it fails and when it does become that torture porn stuff, it really is.
Yeah, see, that's how the whole thing feels to me. Like I love like thriller, those sorts of things. I just feel like it's just mindless gore. And why would I want to watch it? Do you understand?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think there's different types of violence in film for me, where, you know, there is times when you can celebrate violence because in movies, because it's cathartic, it's catharsis, and you know, and that makes sense. And I think there's moments in the Saw trilogy where they do that, where you've got a character you don't like and you kind of want to see him deal with this, you know what I mean, or something. But I think sometimes it can go that line of like, it's just straight mindless, nasty, and like he doesn't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a line of with these things. And that's what I said. Like, I like really violent stuff, like in movies and stuff. But there's always you've got to have a level of class, or like, for example, like the reason I watched a video recently about Tarantino's violence, and the reason why his violence works is because he makes it a bit slapstick. He puts like almost like Looney Tunes-esque sound effects underneath the things, and it's not something you think about, but
like in Django with the bullets, they sound like bombs, don't they? Like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly like what you'd hear in Looney Tunes or something. But like, even though it's a very violent scene, it's fun and it's like a bit more lightheartedness. Whereas when it's like being super gory and realistic, but also doesn't really have a point to say, and it's just being nasty for nasty's sake. I that's where I sort of understand people's problems with that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think my issue is not the violence, I think it's the level. Like, I love action scenes, I love a good fight scene, but I think it's just the whole, yes, I'm going to cut off my own fat. Oh, no, I can't do it. And I'm really squeamish too, so I just feel sick. Like,
but I think what you want is, oh my god, he's going to get the key, Yeah. Whereas instead, a lot of the traps were just, alright, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's get this along now. I get it. They're gonna die a horrible, painful death. Yeah. But I want to say, for the record, I think it's a film. There's definitely there's things going on. There was a concerted effort to sort of bring something to the Saw franchise that we hadn't seen before. Some of it is a bit derivative of better movies. Again, like with Seven, but. I'm not going to say I didn't have fun, and I was engaged throughout.
I had fun.
I just think it doesn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah, I had fun with it, and I think it's got good ideas, but I don't think its execution's pulled off particularly well, and I think it hits on nearly every single cliche you can think of.
Oh my god, it does.
It fluctuates from having really good bits of dialogue and like character moments to having terrible bits of dialogue and character moments. So it's a weird movie. I mean, it's a shame because I feel like it could have been, me and Matt were saying, like, it's a really good idea and it could have been something really special, but it just isn't. And I think
it's the kind of movie I wish I could have been going to everyone. Oh, you got to see Spiral. You got to see Spiral. It's great, but it's just not quite good enough, which is a shame.
Yeah,
but you know, I'd see Chris Rock in more dramas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was funny in it, but again, as you were saying about the dialogue. I feel like sometimes the dialogue was only good because it felt like they just let Chris Rock improv some of his skits.
Some stand-up stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
some
exactly
stand-up
what
stuff,
it felt like. Yeah. And that was the best stuff, the best dialogue stuff, when it felt like it was Chris Rock sort of getting off sort of jokes.
But
that
when
he
it
written or whatever.
when it was the cliched stuff like "you're too close to this case,"
You're too close to
he
this case.
says,
You never work with a partner. He works on his own.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
yeah.
Or the classic.
No,
The classic.
classic
Got about
Maverick stuff.
yeah, he's a loose cannon, but
Yeah.
also he's the best one on the force. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why
Yeah,
people hate him. Is
yeah.
all the
Gotcha.
cliches.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a good time.
Yeah, we did
Okay.
have fun. We
So
did have fun.
Godzilla vs Kong does what it says on the tin. Spiral, it's a movie. That's what I took from those two things.
Godzilla vs Kong does what it says on the tin, and it's better for it.
Yeah.
Spiral does what it says on the tin, and then attempts to do a little bit more, and it's better for it, but it doesn't quite
Hit the mark.
come together. Yeah, I think Charlie's hit the nail on the head in terms of like the ideas, fantastic. The execution, sometimes at times sloppy.
Very simple,
And
yeah.
if you had to pick one for me to watch, which would you pick?
Godzilla
Kong
vs
all the
Kong.
way. Yeah.
Cool.
Team Kong, baby.
That's sorted.